Hello guys, today we are going to write a program to check if a given element, I'm writing here a given element, okay? Element K is present there in a given list. Okay, we'll see how we can write this program today. Now, see, let's dig into the problem first. So we are in the question, it is said that we are given a list. Say, for example, our list is, say, A, and I said that a given element. So for the time being, you consider that these elements are numbers. So we will assume that we are given a list of some numbers. Say, for example, the list contains 5 numbers, like, say, 5, 9, 2, 6, and 3. Now we are asked, like, we have to write a program that checks if a given element K is present there in the list. So it means we have another container or a variable K where we store a number. That number we want to search whether that number is present there in the given list or not. So for example, if the value of K is equal to 6, in that case, our program should give us an output as yes. It means that 6 is there in the list. However, if I change the value of K from 6 to, say, for example, 62, in that case, our program should give us an output, say, no, because 62 is not there, not present in the given list. Now, that is the problem statement. Now, how we are going to approach the problem? That is the next question before actually writing the code. Okay, let's see. Let's say we know, like in the RAM, how this, or in the memory of the computer, how this list is going to be stored, right? We know that thing. So we know that, like, this list A in the memory of the computer, it will be stored as if, no, it is a container, it is a big container where it has some cells like this. So it is a list of 5 numbers. So it will have 5 cells, starting with the number 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in the first cell, the value will be 5, and like that, 9, 2, 6, and 3 will be the value of the last cell. Then what we want to do is, we have another container, or we have another, like, variable, this K. Now what we want to do is, we want to check, like, if this K is present there anywhere in the list, right? So the idea is, see, we know one thing, like using a loop, we know that we already have seen that we can actually iterate over the content of the list. That is, we can go to each and every cell of the list in each iteration, and then we can access the content of that particular cell. So if you know that thing, based on that, what we can do is, now that, okay, now what we are going to do is, suppose we will make use of a loop variable, say I, and that will point to initially at index number 0. That is, initially we'll start with index 0, and then what we are going to do is, we are going to compare whether that 0th index value is same as the value that we are looking for or not. Okay, so if it is a match, say, for example, right now the value of K that we are looking for is, say, just for the sake of an example, say, for example, it is 9. So A of 0 is equal to K, that the computer will evaluate as a false statement. I mean, certainly A of 0 is 5, where K is 9, so it is not same, so it is not the number that you are looking for. So as a result, what you are going to do is, you will write the code in such a way that, okay, now it gets like, it goes to the next iteration, and in that next iteration, you want to make sure that the value of I becomes 1. So you move to the next cell, actually. So in the next cell, you do the same thing, like whether the value of this current cell is same as the value of the variable K. So this time you are lucky, and your program will come to know that, okay, in A of 1 there is a 9, and the value that you are looking for is also 9. So that way the program can actually, confidently say you, or produce an output that the element that which is being searched for is present in the given list. However, again, just suppose we are asked to search for the number. Suppose we are looking for the number 90, not 9. So in that case, you should realize at this point that no, for all these values of I, that is for I equal to 0, I equal to 1, I equal to 2, I equal to 3, and I equal to 4, for all these possible values of I, these condition these condition is going to be a false condition, because in none of these cells this 90 is there. So it means what? If you reach the end of the list, like how will you come to know that you reach the end of the list? If you exhaust the index number, last index number, that is, if you pass the last index number, and if you still do not have a match, it means that you actually search all the elements present there in the list and you didn't get a match. So that way, if you finish searching all the elements present there in the list, and if you still do not get a match, that time your program should produce, okay, the element that you are looking for in the list is not there. So this is the basic idea actually. So since it is a very simple idea, I'll not spend much time on now here. So now we are going to write the actual code and see how it works. Say we have a list A equals, we store some numbers there, like say for example 23, 34, 56, minus 90, and 67, and last one is for example 76. And then we want to search this number k, and the value of k in could be anything, basically the number that we want to search for in a given list. So say in this iteration, suppose I want to check if the number 76 is there in the list or not. So you might be thinking, sir, why to write a program? Because I can read this list in a second, and then in a second I can tell that 76 is there in the list. Yeah, you are true, you're very much true, but the thing is that in a in a real life problem, these list might not be that small actually. Like usually we do not need a computer to process a list of 5 numbers or 6 numbers. Usually we need a computer to process a list of say, millions of numbers. So that time, just by looking at the list of those numbers and saying whether a given number is present there or not is not going to be that easy for any human being. Okay, anyhow, say for example, we are now looking for the element 76 is there or not in the list. So k is equal to 76. And again, we know that we have to iterate over the list and all the elements present there in the list. So for that, we need a loop variable. So say I is the loop variable, and we want to start at the 0th index. So I equals 0. And then the actual loop, like say while the value of I is less than n. And again, what is n? We know like this n should be the number of elements present there in the list. So how do we know? N is equal to, we can make use of this function, len function, inbuilt function in Python. So len of the array list A. So now, as long as the value of I, as long as the index is less than n, that is way up to n minus 1, what we want to do is we want to check if the current element, that is if the element which is there at the index I, if the element which is there at the index I of the list A, this is how we are going to write it, and we are going to read it as A of I. Okay, so if A of I is equal the value that we are looking for, the element that we are looking for, then what we want to do is, we know our program, we want to we want our program to actually display this output to the user, like, okay, the element that we are looking for is found. And see, once the element is found, and what you can do is, as a programmer, and based on the requirement of the program, you can actually stop the search here itself. Because suppose the question is that we only want to know whether that particular element k is there in the given list or not. Okay, so if it is the case, then what you can do is you can use a break statement. There is no point of continuing the loop once you found the element that you are actually looking for, right? That's quite logical. Now, suppose if it is not the case, like if the current element is not equal to k, so that time you can again, you can write an else part, but I'll prefer not to write an else. That is, if it is not the case, then do not do anything. And after that, independent of that if condition to be true or false, what I want to do is I want to execute this statement, like I equals I plus 1, to make sure that in the next iteration it goes to the next element present there in the list. So anyhow, that much like that is the body of the loop. And after that, once we come out of the loop, we have to see here in this program. If you see that nowhere we have written not found. That is, if the element is not there in the list, our program is not going to generate any output. If you want, you can check it. Like say, I execute the program and I say found here because we were looking for 76, so it was saying found. Suppose instead of 76, we are looking for say 765. So that time our program is not going to produce any output because see, you have not written anywhere not found. So somehow you have to tell your program that okay, this is the situation when you have to say that the element is not present. Now that is actually the logic. Now, what logic we are going to apply now here? See, you should realize by this time that this program is very much similar to the program that that we wrote when we were writing a program to check if the given number is a prime number or not. Okay, so anyhow, now see here, how do we know that the element is not present? So we know one thing logically, that the control, if the control reaches here by following this path, that is due to the failure of this condition, then it means that we, when our program actually checked all these numbers present in the list and didn't get a match. So that way we can so somehow if we know like this path was taken, then we can like our program can actually display that the element was not there in the list. And there is a way, right? We can check like if the value of I, if the value of I at this point, if the value of I is equal n, that is, it means what? If this condition is true, it means that the control reached this point due to the failure of this condition. However, if this condition is not true, it means the control reached this point due to the execution of this break. It means the control was somewhere inside the loop. It means the value of I was less than n at that point of time. So these logic should make sense in your mind. Okay. Anyhow, if I is equal to n at this point, so we will know that our program actually searched all the lists and didn't get any match. So as a result, we can say, like we can ask our program to display that the element being searched for is not found. Now let's see. Let's say we are checking for 765. So since it's not there, it should say as not found, and it's the right output. Say for example, again, let's see whether it gives us the right output. If we search for the element, say 56, and it says, okay, the element is found. Great, then you learned like how to write a program that checks if a given element is present there in a list. Now see, let's concentrate that point here where I said now if a given element is present there in a list. So I didn't say like numbers. Okay. So when I say element, it is a general word in the sense that this list these lists always need not to be a list of numbers. This list could easily be a list of strings. Say, for example, a list of names. Say, suppose you are given a list of names and then you are asked like whether a particular name is present there in a given list or not. Say now you are just assume a hypothetical condition. Say this is the list of all the candidates who are being called for an interview. Okay. Say we want to keep track of those names here. Say for example, the first name is Mike, second name is anything Lily, and third name is Haris, and fourth name is anything, and say Pallav. And then a new candidate comes in, anything, that is our K actually, and he or she says that his name is say anything what say Bob. And our program has to check if Bob was being called for an interview or not. And these are the list of candidates which were, who were called for the interview. And then a guy appears and he says that his name is Bob. And our program has to check like whether if there is a person whose name is Bob who was being called for that interview on that particular day. So this is, say, for example, a problem that we have to solve, using a program. So in that case, what you can do is you can safely write a program that looks like this. So in Python, you can not only create a list of numbers, at the same time, you can create a list of strings also. Basically, you can create a list of anything, but for the time being, you just assume that along with numbers, you can create a list of names also. So say for example, just for a recap, if you want to create a list of three numbers, then you remember that you have to write something like this. That is, this is a these instruction will make the computer to create a list of three numbers. Similarly, if you want to create a list of all these names there in the RAM, then what you can do is you can create a variable in this way. So in the same program, certainly you cannot give two names same, but anyhow, just forget about this name. Like if you want to give different names, then you can give. But the point here is that these lists, like, so how can you create the list of names here? So how can you do that? You simply have to write it in this way. So first, you want to create a list of strings where the first name is Mike and the second name is Lily and the third name is Haris. See here, every name I'm writing within this double quotation. That is a part of the syntax. Okay. Now see, when I was creating a list of numbers, I didn't enclose those numbers within any double or single quotation. However, if you want to create a list of strings, these are called as your strings. Set of characters are called as a set of characters are called as a string, and this name is actually a string. And so if you want to create a list of strings, then each element, each string, you have to enclose within this double quotation. Okay, so that is the part of the syntax. You should know about that thing. Other than that, everything is same. So that way, if you want as many names as you want to put into the list, you can actually. So for example, Alicia, and that way you go on. So these are the names. And then again, this is the name that you want to search for. So again, here, see, the value of this case, simply writing Bob is not enough actually. Since Bob is also a string, you have to make that thing sure by putting it within a double quotation. It means A is a list of strings, and the element that you are searching for, that is also a string. Now all the other things are very much similar. That is the search process, how do you generate the result, the logic, and everything. So let's write the code and check our understanding. Again, we'll start with a list. Say for example, A is the list of names that we want to create, and also we want to put some names there. Like say for example, the first name is Lily and the second name is, say, Harish, and so Krishna, Martin, and the last one is a Bob. Bob appears again, okay? And then we want to search for a particular element. This time that element is your, a string. The element that we want to search for is a string now. So that could be anything. So for example, I want to check if there is a person there in the list whose name is Sun. Okay? And the rest of the things are same. That is, we want a loop variable to iterate over the list, the content of the list. And then we want to use this while loop as long as the value of I is less than n, where n is the length of the string. So length of the string A. And as long as it is the case, then we want to check like if the current name, if the current name is same as the name that we are searching for, that is there in K. And if it is a true condition, then we know that the name is found. Print it is found. And since we are interested only to know like whether that name is present there or not, and we already got the result. As soon as it is found, we know that the name is present there in the list. So we got a result, and as we can immediately stop our search process by making use of this break statement. Okay, and no matter whether that ai equal to a of I equal k is true or false, I want to always execute I equals I plus 1, so that in the next iteration it goes to the next element or next string or next cell. So here, when we go out of the loop, at the end of the loop actually, so we want to check which part was taken, whether we exhaust, whether the control reached this point due to the failure of this condition, which indicates that our program has checked all the names present in the list and didn't find any sun there, or due to the execution of this break statement, which indicates that you know that the name that we were searching for was actually there in the list. So we can check if the value of the variable I is equal to n. That time we know that the name was not there in the list, not found. Let's execute this program and check. Not found. There is no person whose name is Sun and who was called for an interview on that particular day. Suppose Bob appears and he says, okay, I was called and I have an interview. And let's say what our program says. Our program says that, okay, he was called actually and it is found there. His name is found there in the list. Hope you people have understood now both these two programs. The first program is searching for a particular number there in a list, and the second program is searching for a particular string in a given list of strings. See here, the logic of finding a number or finding a string in a given list is same. So that is why in general you can say both these two programs are about finding whether a given element is present there in a given list or not. That's all for today. I'll see you with some more examples of list in the next class. Have a nice day.